What do they say? Go woke and you go broke, right? And isn't Netball Australia about to learn that the hard way? After a whiny, whingy, woke campaign by some members of the Diamonds, led by a former skipper in Shani Norder, who is acting like some kind of chief steward or shop steward, Australia's richest woman has pulled her $15 million sponsorship of the national team. And let's remember what this was all about. A small band of players, not all of them, they were upset by what Hancock Prospecting's founder, Lang Hancock, said about Indigenous Australians almost 40 years ago. And they were equally as unimpressed with Gina's scrutiny of climate policies and her disapproval of climate propaganda. Talk about cancel culture. So a woman in 2022 has to bear some kind of public punishment for what a father said 40 years ago? That is a terribly unfair high bar. Or maybe that's okay because Gina, you see, is a Conservative and everyone knows that. Maybe she needs to pay for life. And when it comes to climate change, don't dare have a different view. You can't expect the concept of free speech to exist on that topic. No way, that's evil. And don't dare question spending billions in this country to make zero change to the weather. That must be out of bounds as well. How dare you do that? Don't question the one-sided climate facts being fed in schools. That's disgraceful. Those who instigated this campaign against Gina Rinehart are spoilt, entitled and small-minded brats. And what does Gina Rinehart do in response? Firstly, she waits a week, hoping that Netball Australia can get its act together. And then she has the good grace to keep propping up Netball Australia for the next 4 months to help fill the gap while this embarrassing organisation finds a new sponsor. And that is way more than she should be doing. If it was my 15 mil, I would have withdrawn the entire amount last weekend. And the other point that's been ignored here is that Gina Rinehart did not insist that the company's name be worn by those players. That was not her idea. Netball Australia made that happen. They triggered the fake revolt. In a statement, Gina Rinehart said, "It is unnecessary for sports organisations to be used as the vehicle for social or political causes." Hear, hear. The reality is that sponsorship is integral to sports organisations for full-time professionals right through to the grassroots level. Hancock has and always will ensure its sponsorship is spent on and for the athletes. And there's the other great own goal scored by these twits. They've just robbed all the young little girls who play this sport in all parts of Australia of grassroots funding. I wonder whether they thought about that before they opened their mouths. Netball Australia CEO Kelly Ryan said, "Hancock Prospecting's investment recognised the value and contribution of our national team and their role as the world's #1 netball team, although we won't worry about the games they lost this weekend against New Zealand. We acknowledge the difficulties and impact of recent discussions and are disappointed to see them withdraw the partnership. This is a loss for our whole sport, from grassroots through to the elite program." I'm sorry, but players should never be bigger than the sport. Decisions like this are best made by the people appointed to make decisions like these, not those paid to purely play the game. We saw cricket captain Pat Cummins demonising energy supplier Alinta too during the week. Alinta is helping us keep the lights on. Without the Alintas of the world, we wouldn't have a functional nation. We'd be in third world conditions. We'd be without power. And yes, a transition is underway. But why does this have to be so blindly black and white? It's either renewables, full bore, or not. This can't happen overnight. We've learnt that. Look what's happened in Europe. There's not one single nation that can survive entirely on renewables. And the numbskulls at the Fremantle Dockers, they did the same thing to oil and gas giant Woodside. Take oil and gas out of the equation and we'd be a struggling European nation, suffering blackouts as they're doing now, and economic destruction. Gina Rinehart, who advertises on Sky News, by the way, but that is not why I'm making these comments, should not pay for her father's crude statements from 4 decades ago. No woman should have to do that. She has done more for First Nations communities than most state governments in this country in an entire term. $300 million over the past 7 years alone. Netball Australia has gone broke once and will face the same dark days in 2023, probably beyond. Watch them struggle to find a sponsor anywhere near the spend of Hancock Prospecting. If they get 2 years financial support, that'd be amazing. If they get $4 million, it'll be a miracle. Maybe the same whingers in that netball squad should start grabbing a few raffle ticket books and start door knocking, because they'll need every last cent. Because by taking fake offence at Gina Rinehart's incredible generosity, they have just cooked their sport's greatest golden egg.